I don't even know where to begin. I don't want to do this review. I don't like doing negative reviews. There's enough stink on the internet, but this is what I chose to review, and I don't have time to review anything else. I guess I could just not put up a review on the channel, and then people would just wonder what happened. There's no review. There's always a review. No review. I don't know. You guys let me know when all is said and done if it would have been better for me to just put a little post and say, sorry guys, the movie I watched today, I really, really hated. I don't want to talk about it. Especially when it's, like this one, kind of an indie movie, off the beaten path. Sometimes I like exploring those kinds of things. You can sometimes find some real gems. Altered was not a gem. The IMDb synopsis for Altered is in an alternate present, genetically enhanced humans dominate society. Outcasts Leon and Chloe fight for justice against corrupt politicians exploiting genetic disparity, risking everything to challenge the oppressive system. So the main character, played by Tom Felton, is that his name? Yeah, who people would know as Draco Malfoy. That's the boy Malfoy, right, in the Harry Potter movies. So I've seen him in one or two other things since Harry Potter, and I think he can be an interesting kind of character actor or play some kind of character type roles. And this was the first trailer I'd seen of him doing something where he was the leading man, and I was curious. His American accent sounded solid in the trailer, and it also sounded like he was maybe playing kind of a quirky guy. I was just interested in kind of what this thing could be. But I forgot some crucial rules that I have just learned over time must be obeyed when watching trailers if you want to avoid something that really disappoints you. I forgot. And so this was my lesson watching Altered. Anyway, so yeah, he plays a paraplegic in a world where there are the haves and the have-nots. The haves are the genetically altered, people that are enhanced. I think they're called the altered or so. I can't remember. And then you got the specials. And the specials are people that are not altered. They're called specials, I guess. It's kind of, it's kind of like how sometimes people will say of a disabled person that they're special or something like that. So I think it's supposed to be this kind of like underhanded insult or something, or anyway. So he's among the people that are not only, they're not genetically enhanced. He actually was born with, I think he was born with a defect that makes him a paraplegic. And anyway, there's inequality, and they're fighting against it. So he's kind of like something of an eco-terrorist or just a regular terrorist or something, and trying to bring equality for all, which it's not real clear what that looks like and what they're even fighting against. You just have this vague sense of... Anyway, so the script feels simplistic, very simplistic. Like a jumble of recycled ideas and moments from countless other movies. Of course, your mileage will vary, but this is what I'm thinking about this movie. This is how it felt to me. The guy is using an exoskeleton to allow him to not only walk, but to fight the powers that be, which in the trailer looked like it had some promise. But like when there's actually just moment by moment acting and dialogue and exchanges between characters, the writing, the reactions that characters have to different situations or to different moments, they feel often forced or artificial to me. The dialogue is often expositional, and I always found it uninteresting or overly obvious, or, boy. As far as the cast goes, Tom Felton was the strongest part of this movie for me. He feels solid as an actor here, but inappropriate. Like a quirky character, and played by a character actor who has been tasked with playing the leading everyman instead of a quirky leading man. I assumed from the trailer and from the way he kind of talked and the way his voice sounded, like he sounds like he's a little bit of a quirky guy. This could be interesting. But he's not written necessarily like a quirky, weird guy, which I would have liked. he's written much more straight. Well, like I said, all the dialogue feels very just straight and basic to me. So his performance does not fit. It's overly interesting. It's overdone. I mean, the acting overall feels just overstated, almost like it was made for children. Now, largely that I think is due to the post-production ADR, where the actors come in and they re-record their dialogue while watching their lips move in the final edit, so that they can compensate for bad recording environments on the location that they were shooting at, or the set, which wasn't great for that, or whatever. It's a very common thing, but here, when it's not done well, it's noticeable. It feels like you're watching a movie that's dubbed from a foreign language, except strangely, all the dialogue is matching the lips, the movement of the lips. Like, okay, they are saying this is not some, old Godzilla movie, that it really is syncing up, but something about it feels artificial. Something about it feels or sounds dubbed. And what I suspect, and I don't know, I actually had a brief exchange with one of my listeners and patrons this week who kind of noticed something similar with the English-speaking actors of the Squid Game show. That I noticed, that even when people were speaking in English, it felt dubbed. It was weird. There was something odd about it. And my theory as of today is that this is to cover accents. That they have actors on the set who can learn the lines and speak the lines in English, but on the set, if you were there listening, it would be a really, really thick accent that you would have trouble understanding. And so they use post-production to either have the same actor or, as I think might be the case often, in this movie anyway, a totally different actor, like a voice actor, to come in and record that same dialogue. The problem is, if you have a voice actor do that, someone who is used to doing voiceover in commercials, used to doing audiobooks or audio drama, someone whose career is a voice actor, then what they are going to bring to that process in ADR, I suspect, is always going to feel overstated, overdone. It's not going to feel right. And so my guess is that's what happened here. And when you pair that with the nature of the script, it made this experience painful for me to get through. Oh my gosh. Anyway, stunts and visuals. The sets and the costumes about half of the time look okay. They even grounded, and there's nothing glaring about the costumes that looks like cheap or fake or whatever. The camera work too. There's some nice subtle handheld camera work being done that makes it feel a little bit kind of grounded. The action scenes I found unimpressive, but I think that's due more to like a lack of scope and ambition, which, they're going to have budgetary limitations with this kind of indie movie that it is. So it's due more to like a lack of scope and ambition compared to, say, like it being about bad CG, which the CG is not great, but whatever, or awkward choreography. I didn't think the fight choreography looked bad. There was even, it was well executed for what it was, but it just wasn't interesting or seemingly ambitious or creative. If you turned the audio off of this movie and just were watching it in silence, I don't think it would be obvious how rough it is. Speaking of audio, in addition to the weird voice acting sort of dubby vibe that the dialogue has, and that's not all the time. That's not all the time. Sometimes there are actors who's like, okay, I hear a little accent from them, but I wonder if it's because it's so slight, they just thought we don't need to redub their voice. And I would have just, I don't know if it was possible. I would have just preferred everybody have accents. I don't know if it's supposed to be taking place in America or what, but just let me hear the accents. I will be fine. I do not need everybody to sound like an American, and I certainly don't need everybody to sound like a voice actor. Anyway, so in addition to that quirky, weird element, the mixing of the dialogue is strange at times. In the opening scene, there's a room that feels way too echoey all the time, even when you're coming into a close shot on characters. And that's when you would, if it's a big room, then on the wide shot where the camera's far away, that's where you would put more of the echoey sound if you're in a big echoey room. But then if you're going in on a tight shot with somebody, you would mix that differently. But they were using the same kind of echo effect for the faraway shots and for the close-up shots. I was like, that is not right. That doesn't seem right. There was also a scene where a TV, like an old vacuum tube TV with a little cheap speaker on the front, it plays dialogue from like a newscaster or whatever that sounds just as clear and normal as dialogue mixed for those speaking in that room. I'm like, that should sound a little tinny. It should sound a little trebly. It should sound a little cheap or something. So there was just some things that were off about the audio in this movie, particularly related to dialogue. Okay, themes briefly. You know, the message of unity and equality against a backdrop of associated legislation going on that they're kind of fighting against or fighting for or whatever. The messaging feels unclear as to its potential real-world parallel that I'm supposed to walk away caring more about. It feels less like it's trying to say something relevant to real-world issues and more like it's just using what they thought would feel poignant because it's the kind of thing that other poignant movies have done or said. Like, right? Hey, good movies say things like this, right? Let's do this. Let's say this. I think it's very doubtful that anyone watching will be led to have meaningful thought or discussion afterward because I would guess that most viewers will be aiming to forget the experience if they made it through until the credits rolled. Man, I hate saying that. I would love for a lead like Tom Felton, who I've seen in other things, and I've seen some of the potential that he has. I'd love for him to get a chance at something like this that's just executed on better. So yeah, it gives me no pleasure to talk about it this way. All right, no idea what your tastes are. If I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Peter, yeah, skip this one and be reminded that when you're watching trailers, especially kind of off the beaten path, lower budget or indie looking movies, look for clips of dialogue and how they sound and feel coming out of the actor's mouth. If they never show an actor's lips moving while dialogue is represented in the trailer, big red flag. If they rarely do, or only briefly in short snippets do, that is a lesser red flag, but still a red flag. Try to do more research first before you put out money for it. And skip this one. Oh my gosh. So this one's rated PG-13 for violence, some bloody images, and language. And those are all of my thoughts for now on Altered. As always, love getting your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Please do let me know if you like, Peter, there is enough stink on the internet. We agree with you. And when you have a negative review, we just really would rather not get it. You can just post and say, no video this week. I hated very much what I watched. If that's enough, let me know. Or any other feedback you want to give me. I'm open. Please like, share, subscribe, click that bell to stay connected. I appreciate all that stuff. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making this review possible. Guys, you hopefully helped a lot of people dodge a bullet that maybe were looking at this, at watching this one. You can get info about the benefits of joining at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. Then I hope you'll check out our podcast and stay connected to all CGC content at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.